Vintage Audio Attic, Repair and Restoration. I want to talk to you today about the purchase of vintage audio equipment and where to purchase it, where not to purchase it. Online you will see many different opinions like you do about a lot of subjects. And some people will tell you never buy it from eBay. Somebody else will tell you, don't go on Craigslist. Somebody else will say the only way to buy it is to go to a retailer. And other people will say, well, if you do that, then it'll be too much money. There's just a million opinions. And I want to give you mine from a person who has purchased hundreds of pieces of equipment and also repaired and restored hundreds of pieces of that same equipment. I'm not a eBay flipper. You won't see me saying, the top 10 pieces to flip on eBay are. Or I'm not the person who is going to tell you which brand or which model is the best ever. And that's the only one that is the best. There's no other good ones. You got to find this one. I'm not that person either. As I said, I purchase this equipment, I restore and repair the equipment, and I've been doing this for quite a few years. Let me say too, it's my hobby. It's not my profession. So I'm able to take these pieces of equipment and take my time with them. And I think I have a unique perspective because most of the people online, some well-meaning, some not, will talk about, well, you ought to get it from a family member. Never buy it from eBay. I wouldn't do that. And then you find out in the middle of the post or the video that they've only bought 2 things in their life online. So, that's it's a pretty small sample, to make a statement that don't ever buy something online. I've bought several pieces from eBay. I've bought several pieces off of Craigslist. I've never purchased, I don't have a retailer of vintage audio equipment in my area that I would purchase anything from just because they don't have anything I'm really interested in. And that's like a lot of people. I think a lot of you out there, if you wanted to go to a vintage audio store to make a purchase, I know there's some out there. Some of you guys live near them, but I know a lot of you don't either. And if you're going to find something, it's going to be at a garage sale, a flea market, eBay, Craigslist, or somewhere like that. But, the thing that's unique with me, as I said, I work on all these pieces of equipment. I don't flip them or anything like that. So I've worked on, as I said, several hundred, and practically all of them have issues. Online you'll see people say, tested, works great. Just everything's perfect. If the lights come on, even if the lights don't come on, sometimes they say it works perfect. But you see that on eBay. So if you're purchasing on eBay, you got to take that into consideration. You can't look at something and think, this guy really knows what he's doing. He just said he got it in an estate sale and he says it works great. Well, very, very unlikely that it works great unless it's been gone through by somebody and restored. And speaking of that, we're speaking of eBay right now. eBay, for an example, I'll just give an example of one thing on eBay. You can look up whatever you want. But something like let's say a Pioneer RT707 open reel deck, a reel-to-reel. It was a very popular reel-to-reel. It still is in the vintage world. Those reel-to-reels go for $250, $300. Maybe get one cheaper. Maybe you can get one more expensive. But any of the ones that have been restored or worked on, you're not going to get them for $250 or $300. It's going to cost you several $100s, whether it's $400, $500. After you pay that $250, if you can't restore it or repair it yourself, because you're going to have to if you want it to work properly, or it's going to cost you considerably more money than that $250 or $300. So now you got something that's pushing up against $1,000, and maybe somebody that's really restored it from top to bottom. Something like an RT 707, will go over $1,000. It'll be $1,200, $1,400, and you think, well, I'll just buy the one for $200 or $250, and you can do that. And very, very unlikely that you're going to have an open reel deck that functions like it should. Now, with that being said, these things are very reliable once you do work on them and get them back running. These things, especially those electrolytic capacitors, get those out of there. And get any transistors that are known issue makers over the decades, and also the diodes. And you've got a very good chance of that reel-to-reel going, another 20, 30, 40 years, depending on the head condition in a reel-to-reel deck. Now, in an amplifier, receiver, a tuner, a preamplifier, those units, once they're restored, there's really little reason they're not going to go another, as I said, another 20, 30, 40 years before they need service again, and they're going to outlive most people. I don't think the engineers, when they designed this stuff, back in the 60s or 70s, thought anybody'd be using them now, but you got to really hand it to them. They built really bulletproof designs that could be worked on and kept going over the years. But that's just an example of eBay. Craigslist, same thing. It's basically the same as eBay as far as I'm concerned, other than, it's local usually, right? You find something on Craigslist, you drive 10 miles or 20 or whatever around the corner, and you take a look at whatever it is they have for sale. On eBay, it's halfway across the country, so, most likely you just go by what the person says. But, whether it's Craigslist or eBay, unless the person, which is very, very rare, the person has a lot of experience with this stuff, it's going to need a lot of work if it's 40 or 50 years old. I look at it a lot like let's say you wanted to buy a car and you're on Craigslist and you're thinking, man, I keep looking for that 79 Camaro, 40-year-old car, and I just can't find one, can't find the right price, right condition. Suddenly one day you're looking, holy smokes, there's something for me to go look at. And you think, I got to go look at that car, that looks like it's for me. So you go take a look at it, and sure enough, you get there, and it looks halfway decent, just about like the guy said it looks nice, about half the tread left on the tires. Interior looks decent. Says it starts right up. So you just take a look under the hood, and you can tell not too long ago the battery was probably replaced. That looks kind of new, and for the heck of it, you pull the dipstick out and take a look at the oil, and that looks good. You think, well, yeah, I wonder if I could get a test drive. And the guy goes, sure, you can drive it. And so you get in it, sure enough, the thing starts right up. Boom. You put it in reverse, you head down the driveway, and what happens? The brake pedal goes right to the floor, right? So you're sitting there pumping it, trying to get some brakes, and you do get a little bit, so you're glad, so you don't go flying across the street into his neighbor's yard. But you think, okay, well, darn thing's 40 years old. Things happen, and I got a little bit of brake, so I can drive it a few miles here. So you start heading out, and up the road you go, and you think, you're looking at it and you're driving, you think, not too bad, and you get up the road 3, 4, 5 miles, and you're sitting at a light, and all of a sudden you look at the dash, and here's the temperature gauge going up, and you're going, oh no, the thing's overheating. I'm out here, some guy's car, I need to get back with this car, right? So you turn and you start heading back because you're 5 miles away and you're thinking, man, I'm starting to sweat bullets here. So you decide to roll the window down, and what happens? Of course, the glass falls right down into the door. The point of this story is anything that's 40 years old, whether it's a car or a piece of stereo equipment, you probably got to expect to have some issues. And same thing with a car as it is with stereo equipment. If you can repair it yourself, the parts are not too terribly expensive. But if you've got to send this thing off somewhere, you're reel to reel, and then spend $600 or $700 on it, is it really worth it or not? And same thing with like this car. Is it worth it? Can you fix it yourself? If you can, it's a lot cheaper than if you got to take it to a mechanic. And so a lot of times, all you can do is like a basic test. Even if you go to somebody's house and look at a piece of stereo equipment, you really don't know much about it, other than if it's 40 years old, it's going to need some work. Whether it comes on, whether the guy says, my brother had it and he really always took care of his stuff, well, it don't matter. This isn't the car where you change the oil. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was in a glass case or if it was in a corner of a closet with a comforter on top of it. Both people took care of it the same way you would, as long as it was indoors. Now, if it was outdoors, in a shed and water got in it for years, then it's probably not worth anything. But the point of this is to just let you know that there's a lot more to buying this stuff. If you pick something up, you're going to have to be able to work on it, and if you can, just like anything, if you can work on it, it really probably won't cost you much money, but it'll take you some time to work on this stuff, and that's why it costs so much when you do have these refurbished. And another thing too, when you are getting them refurbished, a lot of people don't have anybody to do it in their town, so they ship them off. You got that expense, the time, and really, a lot of times, is it worth it or not? I don't know. If I wouldn't have all this equipment if I had to send it out to have it worked on. I just wouldn't. But I enjoy working on it, so it's not a big deal to me, and I also enjoy the history of it all. And but I just wanted to talk today about there's no good or bad place to buy stuff, I don't think. It's all the same. It really is. I mean, unless you're paying top dollar. Now, if you're paying top dollar, then you better have somebody that shows you what was done with this unit, not just it's been serviced. What the heck does that mean? I never figure that one out. It's been serviced, but nobody's got even a receipt for work. Nobody's got parts. Anybody who's going to refurb this is going to send you back your old parts if you want them. So you're going to have a bag, you're going to have 100 capacitors in a bag to say, see, this is what they did. Not it's been serviced. And people don't even know what that means. I don't know what it means. What'd you do? It's been serviced. Well, the guy serviced it. Yeah, I took it into him. He said it's great. Very unlikely. If somebody told you that, that's not the guy you want to go to look at your vintage electronics, because if he's got any experience, he's going to tell you if you want this thing to work reliably, it's going to cost a little bit of money, and then it will. Then it will work reliably. But what's happening now is these things are starting to fail faster. They're not repairing themselves as the years go on. And now you're getting a lot more people talking about, well, geez, it was working fine. It's been working. I turned it on. It stayed in protection. I turned it on. I lost my left channel. I turned it on. Whatever. Something's happening, because these things are not going to last forever. So if you're going to buy vintage equipment, know that it's going to take some work and some money to get them up operating properly. If you're not willing to do that or unable to do that, it doesn't matter which it is, you probably should stay away from it, because it's a lot like that 79 Camaro I talked about. That car can run every day. It's 40 years old. It can be your everyday car, but it's going to take a little bit more care than a car that's just 2 or 3 years old. It's going to take a little bit more effort to keep it going. And that's going to be the same way with vintage stereo equipment. All electrolytic capacitors capacitors have a limited lifespan. And that's not an opinion, that's a fact. And you say, well, how do you know? Really, I don't know. But the people who design, test, and validate and manufacture electrolytic capacitors, they do know. So if you Google electrolytic capacitor lifespan, you'll find hundreds of pages and thousands of documents from the manufacturers that indicate that life expectancies of electrolytic capacitors are limited. They are. They'll go into a lot of detail. As I said, there's thousands of pages of detail, but you know, there's also summaries that just tell you after 15 to 20 years under normal conditions, you know, these capacitors are starting to fail. And not all of them blow up like these that I'm showing here. These are ones I've worked on that actually, you know, this one exploded, the other one started leaking. You know, not all of them have a dramatic ending like that. Many of them that are 30 and 40 years old haven't totally stopped working, but they're not working well. They're outside their specifications. And most of these manufacturers consider 20% or so, you know, outside their specs as a failure. And some of them fail, as I said, spectacularly. Others just make your equipment not operate as reliably and sound as good as it could. So I wanted to add that in there. I hope this video helped everyone out, and everybody have a good day. Visit vintageaudioaddict.com for more repair and restoration tips on your vintage audio equipment.